Ladies and gentlemen, it's now time for another episode of our Investment Destination Forum featuring the United Kingdom. This forum will be led by Mr. Andrew Jones, Regional Director of Battersea Power Station and Development Company. Mr. Andrew is also the Director of Special Projects and has been involved with the project since 2012. Let's all welcome Mr. Andrew Jones. Mr. Andrew?
Thank you, and good morning, everybody. I'm now going to share my screen with you while we give a presentation on Battersea Power Station and everything to do with it. At the end of the presentation, there'll be an opportunity to ask questions, not only about the power station project itself, but also anything to do with the London real estate market. I've been involved in the sort of residential development section and mixed use projects in London for the last 20 plus years. And the last 8 of them have been on the Battersea project, starting in 2012 when the site was acquired by the Malaysian shareholders. So a little bit of history really and background to the project. The power station itself was constructed originally in 1935 and ran and operated as a power supply for 25% of London until being shut down in 1983 by the Thatcher government, mostly on account of the power station becoming quite inefficient, because it was a coal-fired power station, but also due to the smoke it emitted as a result of burning coal. So it came to the market and had various different weird and wonderful ideas. These are just some of the ideas. One of them, which was promoted, was it to become the new home for Chelsea Football Club. It was going to become a leisure destination and so on and so forth. And as a result, it's had quite a checkered history since it stopped producing power back in 1983. But it's fair to say that now, having had 8 years of development, we are really creating a new town centre for central London. The image you see in front of you here is one of the control rooms. That still exists today, and when we open up the power station in about a year or so's time, you will actually be able to go in there and visit this and the other original control rooms. So this was the hulk of a building that was left after the roof was removed and all of the mechanics were taken out by the first owner, who was a chap called John Broome, who was the pioneer behind a leisure facility called Alton Towers up in Staffordshire. The master plan was enacted essentially by the shareholder structure you see in front of you. So we are very, very fortunate in having exceptionally strong shareholders from Malaysia, and you see the 4 companies that are involved in it. So moving on, the master plan that we have created and are now enacting comprises basically a new town centre for central London. Our whole site is pretty large at 42 acres and sits on the banks of the River Thames. We have planning consent for about 8.5 million square feet of various uses, and that's split kind of 50-50 between residential and commercial. In addition to that, we have 18 acres of the 42 as open space. And here you will see the numbers in totality that we are actually producing. So somewhere in the region of 4,000 residential units, about 1 million square feet of office space and retail space. We will have a hotel, possibly 2, cafes, bars, restaurants, you name it. So you can live here, work here, play here, shop here, do everything on this one particular site. It's anticipated that when we get everything finished, there'll be something in the region of 40 million visitors each year. So becoming a real destination for central London. In order for all of this to work, we clearly have to have a transportation scheme. And I will come on to details of that in a little bit. So this is our phasing plan of how we are proceeding at the moment. Phase 1 in the red top left is now fully built and complete. And we currently have something like 1,000 residents already on site, 25 shops and restaurants, offices, and 865 private residential apartments. I launched those apartments back in January 2013, and we sold 850 within 3 weeks of launch. Not only do we have a lot of residents on site, but also we're creating a cultural destination. And in the last couple of years, we've averaged about 3 million visitors each year. So we lay on various events which drive footfall to create a community. Placemaking is a very large part of what we are doing. And what we are trying to avoid is creating what I would call a sterile housing estate on the side of the River Thames. There are plenty of other developments I could take you to in London, which are such places. And it's not something that we are looking to replicate at all. We are creating a community because that will drive value. That will drive value for our investors, our residents, and drive value for all of the various retailers and food and beverage operators. This was last Christmas. Whether or not we'll have something similar this Christmas, we're waiting for the government to decide on whether or not we'll be able to open up again with social distancing rules in place. A light festival, that was last year, pretty impressive stuff. And as I said, we have a lot of things that have been happening over the last couple of years in terms of creating a sense of place within prime central London. So we now move on to phase 2. That is the actual power station itself, the jewel in the crown, if you like. And you'll see the figures on the right-hand side of what it is we are actually creating. In further detail, this was construction as we started project about 5 years ago on the power station. And here you will see what is effectively a very truly mixed use building. You have to remember that the size of this building can fit St. Paul's Cathedral inside of it. It is absolutely ginormous and covers an area itself of 6 acres. We have a mixture of retail, food and beverage, event space, office space, and of course, prime residential space. We've done a lot of work thus far in terms of replacing the chimneys, which were rotten. We've ordered and bought 1.8 million bricks. So the workspace that we have extends to about 500,000 square feet, and we have pre-let all of that office space. The bulk of it, which is just sitting just under 500,000 square feet, has gone to Apple for their new UK/European headquarters, and we're looking forward to welcoming Apple onto site. We hand over to them August of next year. They then proceed with their fit out, and they will then start bringing their teams in from Q1 22. In addition to Apple taking 500,000 square feet, we've got a smaller 40,000 square foot workspace, which is more of a co-worker type operation. And that again is pre-let. A few little images of what is going on site at the moment in terms of construction. top left is the new Apple space that will be created over 6 floors within the boiler house section, the central section of the power station. Retail is an extremely important element to the power station. And the image you see in front of you is the original Turbine Hall A, constructed and finished in 1935. And this will house, along with Turbine Hall B, somewhere in the region of 120 retail operators. So effectively a retail mall, but not in the traditional sense of something like the Dubai Mall or the Mall of the Emirates. This is a much more authentic, original feel to it. And we've tried to keep as much of the original construction in place as we've created this space now. There's a leisure element to it with a chimney lift and an auditorium that can take 2,000 people, again, within the boiler house section of the power station itself. This is some images of the new chimney lift being constructed. So essentially, you arrive at ground level and then go up inside the chimney and pop out the top for just the most amazing views of central London. We will be making some further announcements Q1 next year as to the first retailers that are coming in, and we've got a number of those already signed up and looking forward to welcoming them for when they start doing their fit out. In terms of occupation, we are frightfully excited about the fact for the first time in well over 100 years, this building will be occupied with effect from March, April next year, when we welcome our first residents into Switch House West. Office space starts being occupied from Q2, and the retailers hopefully will start trading from the end of next year as well. So a really, really exciting time and an amazing destination for people to come and spend time. This is what it was like when I first came on board back in 2012, a fairly rusting hulk of a building, if you can describe it as that, home mostly to pigeons. And this is where we are today. In fact, this is a slightly older photograph and all of the tower cranes have gone. We've got the roof on, everything is looking pretty amazing. And in parallel to the construction of phase 2, we've also constructing what we call phase 3, which sits to the south of the power station. And this, known as the Electric Boulevard, will comprise private residential and a mixture of retail and hospitality. We have in the first phase of phase 3, phase 3A, with something like 550 residential apartments, designed by 2 world-renowned architects. The wavy building to the bottom of your screen has been designed by Lord Foster at Foster and Partners, and will have, when we finish, the largest private roof garden in central London. The collection of buildings to the north of that, slightly more angular, have been designed by Frank Geary. This is his first ever residential scheme in central London. And as you'll see from the photographs I'm going to run through now, it's going to be a pretty amazing building. I'm pleased to report that the images that you see there are pretty much as we have constructed them. So from the southern end of phase 3, we have 2 levels of retail. This is a photograph of, on the right-hand side, of where we're at today, and as compared to the CGIs of the vision on the left-hand side. So progress is really coming along well. A lot of cranes we have. The high street is really now starting to take shape, and also I can report that the the building on the right-hand side, the Foster building, Battersea Roof Gardens, has now fully enclosed with its facades. I talked briefly about how do you get people here. This part of central London has not had a tube station for the last 100 years. We have built our own. So we have extended the Northern Line into our site. We will have our own Zone 1 underground station on site. And this is how it sits and links into the rest of the London Underground system. So we're part of the Northern Line, and so the ability to access other parts of central London, but also airports and the main train stations is beyond repair. In addition to the tube, we also have our own river taxi service, which operates and has been operating for the last 2 years in order to be able to get up and down the river. We have made an enormous contribution to the Northern Line extension, and that will start operating in Q3 2021, an absolute game changer for this part of London. Prior to us constructing our own underground station, the nearest tube was Vauxhall, and the nearest one to the west was Putney. So it's of fundamental importance. Couple of shots on the left, construction ongoing for the new eastern entrance. And finally, a fairly striking image to finish. That finishes my presentation. I hope it hasn't rattled through too quickly. I could probably talk for another 3 hours if you'd like me to, Karen. It's an amazing scheme and a privilege to have been involved in it, actually. You know, I've operated for over 20 years in central London, and it's just been the most fascinating journey that we've been through. And over the course of the next year to 18 months, when phase 2 and phase 3 get to completion and we start welcoming people into the power station, it'll be a pretty amazing experience for everybody. I think also what it does is it adds a lot to prime central London as well, by creating this new destination. That finishes up. If there are any questions or queries, then please do ask.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Andrew. Actually, very wonderful tour in UK, and we're hoping to see this in reality soon, and would love to be there someday. We received actually a couple of questions. Would you like me to start with the first one?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, how much of an investment you're looking for this project?
The investors that we're seeking is primarily within the residential. There may be some opportunities for commercial investment going forward. And the investment in the residential could start with, say, a studio or finish up with 4 beds or penthouses.
All right. And I guess the second question, actually, you already answered just a while ago, but then let me repeat. When will all these phases be completed?
We envisage the whole project, so we have 8 phases to complete in probably about 10 to 15 years' time.
10 to 15 years. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. How has the current situation impacted the current project?
The COVID situation knocked us a little bit in terms of construction, and we had to down tools for about 3 weeks. When the government decided that actually construction should continue within the UK, we put in place very, very rigorous anti-COVID measures, and it took about 2 weeks, I think, maybe 3, to get back up to our levels of construction workers on site, which is about on any day between 3,000 and 3,500 men working on the site. In terms of sales and investments, we've had a pretty good year, actually. What I think people recognize is that the COVID situation is a temporary one. there'll always be demand for prime central London as an investment or a second home, in fact. And what we're starting to see now is more investors making inquiries and wanting to put their money not only into central London, but especially into us, actually. I use a sort of example whereby if you walk into a room of 200 people, every single person in that room has got one thing in common, and that is everybody needs a roof over their head. 50% might go to an office, 60% might go shopping, 80% might go out to restaurants, but everybody needs somewhere to live. And if you look at central London from a geographical perspective, we are a low-built, dense city, and we don't really have that much land left compared to, say, Dubai or Abu Dhabi or other cities throughout the GCC. There's a lot of desert that you can expand into. London is very restricted in terms of its land holding. The government aren't going to phone me up and say, Andrew, can you build 20,000 houses on Hyde Park? Or we're going to move the Queen out of Buckingham Palace, can you convert it into flats? That is not going to happen. So I think people see the long-term opportunity, medium to long-term opportunity as London as a destination for inward investment, especially on the residential sector.
The great thing actually is you are very positive about each of the situations. And based on your observation, how much percentage of investors or people who are coming or moving in the central London during the pandemic?
I would have said that we've probably maintained levels of people coming in. Our first completions in the power station take place in March and April next year, and we're already gearing up to welcome those particular residents at numbers about 100 or so. So that's very exciting. In terms of demographic, we continue to see interest not only from the UK, but also from the GCC and beyond Europe. We've had various European countries and individuals looking at us, seeing the opportunity, and a little bit from the US as well. I think that the strength of the dollar or the weakness of the pound has made investing into London quite an attractive proposition, not only now, but in the last few years as well.
I think it will be all done soon. And the final question, Mr. Andrew, why is this power plant made into a leisure project? Is there any story?
It's not just a leisure project. It's creating a mixed-use building where people will live, they will work, they will eat, they will shop, and they will be able to spend their leisure time at the various options that we have. So we have cinemas inside the power station, as well as the event space and the chimney lift, and the opportunity to visit the original. I mean, a lot of people might have said, why didn't you knock it down? The point about the power station is it's massively loved icon, not only for Londoners, but also from a global perspective. And what that does, it creates value and will drive value, will continue to drive value. And when you start then adding in all of the other elements, such as the arrival of the tube, Apple taking 500,000 square feet of office space, it's an amazing cocktail for success. It's been difficult, it's been tough. Converting a building of this size has not been easy. I'm very happy to admit that. Would we do it again? Yeah, most definitely. Most definitely we would do it again.
Wish you all the best and success to everything that you do. And before we wrap up, Mr. Andrew, is there something else you wanted to say or advise, or your favorite quotes in this time to provide to our audience?
Well, I think we're very much open. And, you know, when we get past this current impasse with COVID restrictions and so, which we will, there's no doubt about that. We just really look forward to welcoming people, especially from the GCC, to Battersea Power Station.
We're looking to be there as well soon. Thank you so much, Mr. Andrew Jones, Regional Director of Battersea Power Station Development Company and Director of Special Projects, for this very insightful discussion and sessions. And it was a very pleasure actually to have you in our event. And of course, thank you all to our audience and participants for today's activities. And with this, ladies and gentlemen, we come to close for today's event as we look forward to the exciting activities coming up in the final 3 days of the largest virtual event in the real estate industry, and the Invest in Dubai Real Estate in partnership with International Property Show. To register for free, please visit our website, www.internationalpropertyshow.ae and www.iadubai.ae, and find more information on our upcoming activities. But also, please don't forget to subscribe and follow our media channels to keep yourself updated. And we will see you all tomorrow. Thank you so much, Mr. Andrew Jones, and good luck to United Kingdom. Bye.
Thank you.